Welcome to the Radical Root podcast, hosted by the 501c3 nonprofit Growing Gardens, your go-to resource for all things radical gardening and food system advocacy. Welcome to the Radical Root. I'm Bee, your ever-curious, slightly dirt-covered host, here to guide you through the beautiful, very, very messy, and very transformative world of radical gardening. As we mark the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, I've been thinking about how this movement invites us to pause. It's a time to reflect on what's past and look forward to the light that's slowly returning. A time to consider what we want to grow in the year ahead. And just like in the garden, this season reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there's always the promise of growth and renewal. And I know we could all use that right now. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about. Radical gardening and how it can plant seeds of change, not just in the soil, but in our communities and in our lives. Gardens are more than just spaces to grow food. They're mirrors of the systems that we live in. When nurtured, they flourish. But when access to water, sunlight, or nutrients is cut off, or worse, when a garden is exploited for short-term gain, it's going to wither. And the same is true of people and of communities. The inequities in our food system aren't just about hunger. They're about control. Who decides what's grown, where it's sold, and who can afford it? These systems weren't built for equity. They were built for profit. But gardening offers us a way out. It's an act of independence, a small but radical way to reclaim our power over what we eat and how we nourish ourselves. Did you know that nearly 1 in 6 households in the U.S. struggles with food insecurity at the same time that food waste in this country exceeds 30% of everything we grow? Let that sink in. It's not a lack of resources, it's an equity in how those resources are distributed. This is where radical gardening shines. It's about more than growing kale and tomatoes, though kale does have impressive survival skills. But radical gardening is about reimagining what's possible and challenging systems that thrive on scarcity. So what if every community had access to fresh and healthy food? What if we built systems rooted in care and equity and abundance instead of exploitation and scarcity? At Growing Gardens, we've seen how transformative this can be. Whether through our home gardens, youth grow, or let us grow programs, we meet people where they are, in whatever season of life they're in. What's remarkable is how these programs often lead to something much bigger than expected. People might join home gardens hoping to grow a few tomatoes, but they end up cultivating a type of resilience that has never been seen in their neighborhood. They're not just growing food. They're growing freedom from a food system that is leaving them out. I've experienced this transformation myself. When I first started gardening, I wanted to grow some fresh herbs and veggies, yeah. But what I ended up growing was a sense of connection to my community, to the land, and to myself. And that really opened my eyes to the power of self-reliance, and maybe you can relate to this. With every harvest, I realized I was taking back a small piece of control from a system that thrives on inequity. And that's what makes gardening so powerful. It's not just about the food you grow. It's about becoming someone who can nurture, adapt, and thrive, and helping your community do the same. When we grow a garden, we're really growing resilience, independence, and hope, one little seed at a time. Here at the Radical Root, we believe that gardening is a tool for change. Each episode will explore how you can plant seeds of transformation, whether through small individual acts like starting a backyard garden, or big collective movements like creating a community-driven food system. In January, we're going to be back with some new episodes to dive into real-world stories from our team and community partners. For instance, you'll hear from one gardener who turned her backyard into an herbal CSA this fall, making healing remedies for dozens of families in her neighborhood. It's been a beautiful thing to watch. These are stories about people using gardens to heal, to grow, and to challenge the status quo. And here's the exciting part. This isn't just a podcast, it's an invitation. As a regular listener, you're not just consuming stories. We want you to become part of them. Who are you going to become as you tune in each week? Maybe you're the person who starts a community composting program, or you join a local food justice initiative, or maybe you just simply see your garden and your neighborhood with fresh eyes and understand its potential to change lives. That little patch of grass in your side yard, it can change lives. Here's your first challenge. I want you to plant one seed this week. Maybe it's basil on your windowsill, or maybe it's a conversation with a neighbor about an inequity that's been heavy on your mind lately. Whatever you choose, remember that every small action grows into something bigger. This podcast isn't just a space for stories. It's a call to action. Every episode will invite you to reflect on your role in the food system and the small but mighty ways that you can make a difference. And just like the solstice reminds us that the longest night gives way to light, remember that even the smallest steps forward, whether it's planting a seed or starting a conversation, can illuminate the path to something brighter. Just like the garden beds that we prepare for planting in winter, this season gives us time to clear the ground, reflect, and imagine what we want to grow next spring. So as the light returns in the coming days, what are you going to choose to illuminate? What seeds will you plant for the year ahead? I'm going to leave you with a favorite quote from Alice Walker. The most common way that people give up their power is by thinking that they don't have any. In the garden and beyond, you have the power to grow something extraordinary. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us, and together we can transform gardens and lives. I'm Bee. This has been The Radical Root. Until next time, keep planting those seeds of change. Thank you for tuning in to the Radical Root podcast, hosted by the 501c3 nonprofit Growing Gardens. To learn more about our work or to donate to keep our programs and services thriving, please visit us at growing-gardens.org. While you're there, don't forget to download your free copy of the Radical Gardening Resource Guide, your step-by-step action path to a greener future for us all.